I am Chester Dunham, and this is the Dunham Report, a marketplace of ideas and information for labor, civil rights, and other issues of social justice. I am Dunham, and I'm the host of the show, and my co-host is Mr. Wesley Crenshaw. And tonight, for you, the viewing audience, we do have a good show for you tonight. But we, now second half of the show, which will be coming up soon. Let's talk about, before our guests come on, and we do have a good program for the listening audience and the viewing audience tonight. And so therefore, we let's talk about a little bit of current event, and we can move into the program. One thing I would this disturbed me, and I saw it in the paper today. Of course, I know this sort of stuff been going on for quite a while. Mm-hmm. We may even mention this to the young lady who's going to be coming on, because they're military or retired military anyway, and so therefore, and that it was in the paper today dealing with it's military sexual assault on. But that's going on within the government, going on in all phases of the service. And I mean, so Congress, now I guess they're going to do a little something. So there's a Congress set off month of debate over how to change the military, in other words, the justice system. Mm-hmm. Now, I talked to you earlier, I think, about this, and I did some studying on this, and that the key thing is they're talking about even it have doubled from 2012 to 2013. But in a sense, let's talk about doubling and whether it doubled or not, because we don't think it really doubled. So let's talk about this situation and why you think that certain things are happening now.
Well, this is of particular interest to me because I was part of the court system in the military. As a court reporter, I saw a lot of things that were going in the military justice system that many people don't even know about. It was hard to understand that as a lot of people that you see going to court here in the civilian court, there are a lot of them going to jail in the military court system too. You never see them because they violate the military code of justice, and so they have their own court system. There is a certain kind of, should I say, culture in the military. It is very different from what you find out here. I often talk to my wife about it when she accompanied me to the hospital here in Charleston. They were really amazed at the ease at which people of all colors and races and gender, how easily they moved amongst themselves at the hospital. And I mean just people coming in for service and those who were in. It was almost a seamlessness. People didn't see necessarily it was a black person or a white person. And so it's a whole different culture. Likewise, the military doesn't, in my opinion, do a good job of really providing good service to people. When I say that, I mean justice. They're interested in maintaining a certain kind of toughness, a certain kind of loyalty. People are expected to uphold the military code of justice. So we're really not supposed to have a lot of violations because there are honor codes and things. So there's a whole different thing than what you would find out here. So it's not surprising to me that a lot of the women maybe have been reluctant to file charges in the military. People are, like I said, people are unaware of the amount of things that go on a military basis. One of the things that I always talked about is that I really never would like to be a married person living on a military base and get stationed abroad, where one spouse is here and another spouse is there. To me, this is just in most cases a situation for people to get into trouble. But it's a very close-knit family, yet there are opportunities for people who have gone months and months at a time separated from their spouses. It's the sort of situation that just kind of is sitting there waiting for something to happen.
Well, let me ask you, because I've never been in the military or nothing, because from what I read and this and that, but I do know that you're dealing with a situation where you mentioned a few minutes ago about a particular code that they have, and not squealing here, they're not turning the other person in. So in a sense, what you're actually saying, a lot of this stuff just goes on all the time, and people know about it, but nobody will come forward and do things. That's why I guess the Congress now are doing some things. So I guess what they're doing, the average military person now might find that what's happening now, they might have a little more confidence in the Congress or whatever, that they may do something and start, arresting people and all this kind of things for the violation of the thing that they commit, whatever.
Well, you gotta understand now, the military has never really accepted the fact that women are of equal status as men in the military. This is a man's world, and a lot of them have not really accepted the fact that we have so many women in the military. They've just, this whole thing about women serving on ships and things of the sort. So it has been a gradual change, but people really think of the military, the old people, when I say old people, people like myself, people who are in control of the military, they still really consider it to be something that men should be doing. They expect, this is my personal opinion, they expect that men are going to be out carousing on weekends if they're in the military, because these are alpha males. This is what alpha males do. They go from bed to bed, jump from dump to dump. So, but what I'm saying is that this is kind of the lifestyle that we've kind of become known as what men do, and military is considered to be, in my opinion, a man's place. But things are changing, and we got a lot of women in the service, and it's not a nice thing for a woman to come up and accuse one of her co-workers of assaulting her, or vice versa, especially when everybody's supposed to be equal. So, this is the whole thing now. All of a sudden, and if I were to come up and accuse her, or she was coming to accuse me, and then I'm going to go talk to you and I'm going to say, oh, Chester, we were only kidding around, we harass around, you got to, there are certain rituals that you got to go through to get past things and whatnot. The same thing is sort of like hazing. You understand what's going on, so you just say, yeah, I did that myself. So all of a sudden now, I think what the women are concerned about is that perhaps that a lot of that good old boy stuff translates into no action. I think that's what they were concerned about.
Okay, that's good, because we got a high-ranking officer will be coming on the show real soon, and that's something that we may want to ask her a little bit about that too, before she leaves. We talked was talking earlier, and I see in the paper, and they said, from what the paper is saying, I heard different people who were connected with the law enforcement talking about this guy who was, I guess, Lieutenant Hall, and the judge hadn't even issued him bonds. In other words, they hold them over. They're not told. They said it's a whole lot of stuff that's, I think somebody was saying the other day that he has a whole lot of junk in his trunk or whatever. So what you think about this situation? And this ain't just happened. They said this fella here, this guy here was out there for a long time. Well, just coming to the surface now. What you think about the people?
This is the same thing I just talked about. Law enforcement is a man's world. Okay. Now let me tell you, in my personal opinion, is that this is why there is so much anger, so much hate toward law enforcement. Because you see, a lot of the young boys and young women on the street, they see what we just finding out in the newspaper. And so they feel that there's a double standard. So lots of times when you see young people acting out a lot of anger, because they know that the same cop that cuffed them the other night for maybe drinking a beer on the street is the same one that they've seen down the street doing some other things. And that they know other police officers know about this. Now, if you read in the newspaper, it seems like this is not something new for this particular guy. If it's nothing new and the newspaper knew about it, or if they didn't know about it, but somebody knew because I think you said this is something, he's got a long sheet or something. So the average person in the street, I guarantee you there are some of them who knew or know of things like this that's going on. Not necessarily this particular guy here, but they know of other police officers, other law enforcement people. They could be federal, they could be state, they could be county or city. But when those guys see those guys doing these things, and women, and they know that other officers know about this, can you imagine why they go to court so angry and stand in front of the judge and everything and saying to them, okay, this guy's cuffing me for doing this and doing this, and I know, if I know, as little Joe on the street knows that this is going on, then somebody else has got to know. So you get that double standard. So when I was reading this in the paper today, I was remembering that, hey, I thought we had a similar situation like this in the past, and all of a sudden it was allegation, but nothing was done about it. So what is happening now, and it's interesting, you look at this guy named Snowden, that, that leaked all the stuff. What is happening is that I think it's becoming more difficult now for individuals, whether they're law enforcement, whether they're corporate or what, to hide the stuff that they're doing, because now electronically a lot of stuff is becoming available. And so I'm not surprised. I hate to see this kind of thing going, because this one officer kind of taints a lot of folks. People, every time you see a police officer car, you wonder, well, is this guy going to pull me over and do something stupid, because that's what I heard they do. But they're not all that way. And this guy right here that we were talking in the newspaper today, he's probably not. It's not as prevalent as we think it is in there. But you wouldn't know by the way they report it.
Well, I'm looking in the paper again, and it's a letter to the edit. And now I see some things in there about my good friend Congressman Kingston. And one thing that I noticed, and I want to at least set the record straight on this, and that is the person who wrote this, and they got their name and everything, but they're saying that blame Kingston in GOP mark, and they're talking about the GOP on wheels on deal, cutting the meals and yes, but the record is, and I hope that the congressman, because will check his voting record and see, because what happened is that the president is in office, and a lot of time some of the stuff that he could veto might don't want to sign it, but a lot of pressure. Now this is the Congress dealing with the budget. And so now the conservative Republican, or the conservative, don't not say Republican because it could be Democrat or Republican, but the conservative Congress, who are the ones who deal with the budget and everything else. And now they cut so much of this stuff that's going to affect a whole lot of people. And even the president is saying now that if they don't have certain things done by a certain time, it automatically, the clock automatically will run that certain things will automatically be cut in certain services and this and that, because they go by a percentage or one of those type of things. So the key thing is that not one individual, but a group, and we have to look at those group and get their voting records and all this kind of thing, where we can pinpoint those particular individuals for certain things, because it's just not this thing, but it's a whole lot of things that will affect a whole lot of poor people now. What do you think about that?
Well, I think what is happening now is that unfortunately, I think that everybody's coming to understand that elections have consequences. Currently, Congressman Kingston and I guess maybe 6 or 7 other people are trying to replace the senator who's going to retire, who is not going to run again. Unfortunately, what is happening is that we have now gotten into a situation in this country that anyone who's running for office or anyone that's politically powerful, whatever they say or do, as we can see by the governor of New Jersey, in the issue of the George Washington Bridge closure, that whatever you say, it is scrutinized, and everybody has a spin on what you meant by you were saying it. Unfortunately for Kingston, he made the comment not only about cutting and whatnot, but he made a comment about maybe people should be charged or work for something, sweep the floor, pay a dime or a nickel for their food. And I think that people saw that as, you know, being hypocritical, or they're trying to spin it at any rate. And you know, one of the things that came to me from this whole thing, when we're talking about cutting the unemployment benefits, or poor kids, or people who are underprivileged working for meals, I would think that the Congress, and especially the United States Congress and Senate, this year is the least among people who should be talking about people getting a free lunch. Because now I can't think of too many things that they have done this year. Maybe we should have been asking them to sweep some floors and pay a nickel for their lunch and pay a lot more money, because I think that they have done nothing this year. So if we're talking about getting, you know, poor kids working and having to pay a nickel for their food, or etc., then we ought to ask we should ask our congressmen to pay something back this year, because in my opinion, they've done virtually nothing.
Well, and that's why we want to have him on in the near future to talk about some of these things, because this thing is national.
Yes.
It is national news all over the United States, especially they're looking at Georgia, looking at, like you said, different people who are running for office, and especially a high position like that, a United States Senator. And so therefore, and this person who wrote it in a letter to the edit, which, you know, can be misleading, but it's out there. So now if he said he didn't meant for it to sound like that, so he will have to get in and straighten us up, because what this person is saying right now is telling us that poor students should sweep the floor for their school lunch. So that can go a whole, you know, so this is
going to be, let me tell you
there's something out there, something out there, so, you know, it's a lot of things.
But you know, this is very interesting. This is the thing about social media now. Now, if you think about it, in the past, there would have possibly been maybe 3 people with a camera and maybe 2 more print media people. And we could have gotten Congressman Kingston, or in this case Romney, or anybody else could have gotten to those 3 or 4 media outlets and have them change the way things are supposed to be spun. Okay. In this case, now just like we are taping this program, anybody with a camera now can go out, and you cannot say what you did not say, because the camera does not do anything other than tape what it hears. So in this situation, however Congressman Kingston meant it, it came out in a certain way. And so there are people that are spinning it all kinds of ways and trying to turn things all around and whatever. Same thing about this guy on Duck Dynasty. No matter how you try to spin it, he said it, it was taped. Nobody can edit it, because the tape is what it said. So I think what the issue is now is that people have to be very careful about what they say, because there are folks now who are just walking around with cameras. As a matter of fact, I'm not going to say that on the air, but I had a situation where I started to tape somebody and put it on the internet. But I said, you know what? I'd run that person's reputation. I should have. I'll tell you about it off the air. But this is, you know, when you got tape now, you can just do whatever you want.
Okay, all right. Well, we're gonna break now, and so listening audience, we will be back in a few with the second half of our show. Thank you.
I'm gonna stop just there.
Viewing audience, we are back with the Dunham Report, and we are back with our second half of the show. Mr. Crenshaw.
Yes.
You could do the honor of doing, well, give some good news there about some event and activities that's going to be fixing to happen.
Well, most of you know that Chester is from a little place called Harris Neck. So there's going to be a symposium on Harris Neck, and this deals with the story of the Gullah community's 200-year journey to freedom. This is going to be at Savannah State University, and the Harris Neck Land Trust is going to co-sponsor it, okay? And so we want you to be aware of that. It's going to be at the Savannah State Student Union Building. The date for this is February 5th, 2014. It's free to students and general public. If you need information about it, you need to call area code 480-200-1497. Again, that is the Harris Neck Symposium, co-sponsored by Savannah State University and the Harris Neck Land Trust, and February 5th, 2014, 9 a.m. in the morning to 3 p.m. in the afternoon. I'm sure you're going to hear more about it, but this is something you do not want to miss. For those of you who are unfamiliar with it, it's a lot of history tied up in the Harris Neck area and had to do with the current past war that we had in over there. But Harris Neck Symposium, let's not forget it. We'll make some more announcements on this before this comes out.
Thank you, Mr. Crenshaw. You can continue.
Yes, and let me see, right here. Get your Christmas gift today. Tickets to the internationally acclaimed gospel play When the Soul of a Woman Cries, first opened to thousands in Daegu, Korea. For some of us it will be Daegu, but nevertheless in Korea it opened to thousands, and we're going to have an opportunity to have it right here in Savannah. Bryant Buchanan Productions Incorporated and its all-star cast presents 5 stunning performances from 17th through 19th of January. That's right here upon us in 2014. And right in the studio today we have the CEO of the organization. I'm going to call her Lieutenant Colonel for all those of you who like to have your military titles, Miss Trish W.B. Buchanan, and her husband, known as Rev, or AKA Buck Buchanan. And we really were glad to see 2 people here in the audience, here in the studio, and especially 2 people who are about themselves, not only in a business sense, but in a spiritual sense. So I understand both of you are pastors.
Yes.
Congratulations, and I know that we are better off for it. And tell us a little bit about When the Soul of a Woman Cries.
When the Soul of a Woman Cries is a play that, as the press release reads, first opened in Daegu, Korea, with a different name actually, Mama Mama O Mima. And so we changed the name earlier this year, but the cast is coming out of the Georgia area, Hinesville, Georgia. So many of the members are locals, and we have a part of our ministry. We take people who typically don't have experience, and we train them from the ground up. And so when the Soul of a Woman speaks about families, it speaks about the reconciliation of families, the role of the headship of our households, and what happens when things break down in the family unit, and how through prayer and how through great faith we can bring that back together. So we recognize that there are lots of problems, high divorce rates, high suicide rates, all kinds of problems that stem from family and the family being broken. So we take a look at that in this piece, and but the central idea is no matter what kind of problems you have or life challenges or tragedies, faith is predominantly what we have to have in order to bring us back together when the soul of a woman cries.
Let me just follow up here now. I understand it opened in Daegu, Korea. Was the cast Korean, or did we have, where did it, I heard you say we take people here and make them part of the cast. Who was part of the cast in Korea?
Well, this particular cast that we have now makes for the 4th cast over a 8-9 year period. Okay. So the first cast coming out of Korea was actually an American cast. We had lots of Korean support, hundreds in fact, and then our patrons were a mix of Korean nationals and Americans, predominantly Koreans. And so there's a story behind that, but the cast was comprised of Americans. There are a few military bases over there, and the military called upon us and said, hey, we want you to put something together. I did not plan on putting anything together that year, but they were insistent that we put something together that centered around family. And by doing that, the original title was Mama Mama O Mima, and the National Koreans thought that it was a famous play from decades before. So we had droves and droves of Korean nationals who attended. But the first cast was cast then, and then our second cast came out of Missouri, And then our third cast came out of Georgia, and fourth cast likewise out of Georgia.
One last question. Are you guys planning on at some point in time taking this to off-Broadway or Broadway?
January is the opening of their tour,
Okay.
of their nationwide tour. And so it's essential that we do well here in Savannah so that we can plan as good stewards to move it forward. We have a few pieces of intellectual property that are ready to move forward, but this is the one chosen for now. And but it is we go forward from here nationally.
Listening to you all, conversation, the question that he asked, and I was thinking, because my mind always runs a mile a minute when I'm listening, and that is that I know individuals who are writers, producers, just the people in the film business that, and they come up with ideas about promoting plays and movies and everything else. But one thing that I noticed with you all, you were talking about everything that happened every day. And that's the key thing about the whole thing that happens in people's life every day. You're not out there this friction stuff and all this other kind of stuff, but everyday life. In other words, here's individual, you're talking about single moms, you're talking about all of these other things, you're talking about the military, you're talking about everyday people in general. And that's the key thing, because that's why we all, as a whole, even the one who are listening now and viewing and seeing us, that the key thing is that we need to really go out and see this play, this production, whatever. And but we can come back to that, but Wesley moving so fast with the play situation, and that's good. But I want to come back just a little and ask questions about your background. You talking about retired military and this thing. Tell us a little something about your life there. You know, how you went into them and all these other good things, and thing that you're a high-ranking officer and all these kind of things. We want to know about some of this good stuff that we're going to come back to all of this.
Okay.
Tell us a little about yourself. Both of you are. You go first and then come back to Harvey.
Well, I'll try not to be as long-winded, but I am a product of, I'm blessed to have two sets of parents, mom, dad, and stepmom, stepdad. I was raised in a military family. I'm the daughter of a two-star general who's deceased now, Major General Michael B. Sherfield out of Jacksonville, Florida. And so my life has been military. And then after I traveled the world with my family, lived in Germany, I lived all in the United States, lived overseas, all kinds of places. From 6th grade to 11th grade, I lived in Bad Kreuznach, Germany, Heidelberg, Germany. I love Brötchen, I love Bratwurst, I love, German food all the way across the board. And so got a background with traveling and just sort of experiencing the world and learning just by living all over the place. Mm-hmm. So when I graduated from high school, I decided that I wanted to go to a historically black college. I didn't have a whole lot of black experiences, and so I wanted to experience that, and so my family arranged it. We eventually got to Howard University. I have 3 degrees. My first one is from Howard, majoring in radio, TV, and film. I minored in sociology, economics, and my second degree is in public administration from Murray State. My goal was to go to law school. I had a very, very big interest with law. So upon joining active duty military, I was in a very highly deployable unit, and it just wasn't feasible to drive from Fort Campbell, Kentucky to Nashville to go to law school. So I picked up my second degree from a military school on the fort, Murray State, and then finished that out. And then some years later, the military decided, hey, we're looking for a certain kind of person at West Point, so we want to train you to teach English to our West Point cadets. So I spent a lot of time going to get a 3rd degree in English, so I decided to look at Howard and Georgetown. So got admitted into both schools. The West Point, for some reason, didn't like Georgetown's English curriculum. So Howard said, listen, we'll put a curriculum together specifically for you for West Point. So Howard took the charge, got another degree out of that, and then I taught at West Point for a number of years. That was a really good decision because after retiring as a lieutenant colonel, I noticed that once you kind of made it up the ranks and start working for some of the higher ranking individuals, many of them had West Point on their records. So having the ability to teach there was a good thing. But going to Howard was a great thing too. I love that. So somewhere along there, coming out of college, I decided that ROTC would be the route. I knew that by going in the military that I could do just what my dad did. I lived in a household with an African American general. So, to say that you can be a general or you can be the president or you can do anything that you want, I had a living example through my parents. So I was able to, I enlisted first in the JAG Corps doing legal things, and then I decided to get my commission as an officer, got a commission, and then I started my way from that point. And 24 years later, here's what we have. But the military has been my chosen profession, and then somewhere along there I got married, and I have a civilian spouse. Harvey is here in the studio tonight, and we decided that we would open a business sometime during that career process. So that's where Bryant Buchanan Productions came into play. We, just like many other military families, we moved all the time, and so for the person not in the military, they often had to give up their job and had to keep traveling and make those types of sacrifices. So we wanted to put something together that would be transferable so that when we got out in the military, we could go right into it. But the Lord had something very specific. So at some point in that time, I started getting some deep dreams about what we're doing now, writing projects. And so we believed that that was a route to take. So we opened up Bryant Buchanan Productions in 1997 out of Alexandria, Virginia as a full C corporation, and we haven't looked back since. So from that point, I've been writing original programs ever since then. So this is one play. We have other plays like Girl, God's Gonna Love You Anyhow, Thief in the Night, just a number of presentations. So we not only do plays, we do documentaries, we do films, we help churches build up their theater ministries. We do programs, high programs, educational programs where we bring in cultural events so that people can learn about other people's cultures. We've hosted Condoleezza Rice, Ambassador Young, Dance Theater of Harlem. In a couple of months we're going to host Vicki Winans for the 6th District AME folks here in Savannah. So we do a lot of programs. But to define our company, we basically, as a writer and as a programmer, the personality of what we do is this. We take social issues, so we find a social problem in the community where there's a need, and we build around it, and we present social solutions for healing and reconciliation. So in a nutshell, that's the type of writer that I am. But all of this comes from my upbringing with being in a military family, serving out my own career, and then presenting to you now.
I'm curious, when you're talking about West Point, percentage-wise, with African Americans, what is the percentage? I know you can't hit it right on the head, but of enlisted people at West Point?
Well, West Point's mission is to produce officers, and the specific school that I taught at was the West Point Prep School. And the way that worked is you either got a senatorial recommendation out of high school to go into West Point, but for the prep school, they took students. The military would look at enlisted members from the active duty masses, and they would take their best selections, bring them into the prep school, and then go there, have the students go there for 10 months, and then go to West Point. And so the strategy behind that was this. Now I know a lot about the particulars of what they were looking for, but they were looking to build their minority population in Hispanics, in blacks, and in women attending the school. And so the prep school was a place where a lot of minority students could go through first if they couldn't get in directly to West Point. And but the percentages are very low, very, very low. There are approximately 200 plus slots on the active duty side of the house to fill those prep school quotas. Only 200 some, and not a whole lot of us were getting those positions.
I will do another show on that because I want to follow that up because I you know, from reading or what have you, know you're correct on what you're saying, and we need to talk about that, you know, as a whole. People need to understand and they need to listen more. Even elected officials and what have you, high-ranking officers and high position like senators and congressmen and sort of thing, which it all plays that they have something to do with it too, and we need to, because it should be that African American as well as anybody else, the doors should be wide open, and if you have a level playing field, and that should be there for everybody. And I don't care who you are, the military and everybody else, and they need to know that. So we're going to be doing a show about that.
Well,
we're not going to leave it alone.
but my last job in the military was I was a discrimination law consultant, and basically I took the cases on all discrimination cases and consulted lawyers, did all of that. So when you talk statistics, that was a part of our job too, was to track the stats. So Fort Stewart, as an example, you had 28,000 soldiers, 84-some thousand family members with soldiers, and out of that 28-some thousand, 60% were white males, 30% African American, and then you do the numbers for everyone else. Your Hispanics, your Asian Pacific, and so on. But 30-some% for your African Americans, 60% white male for who is actually in the ranks.
Very good, interesting person, and that's why I really wanted you on here tonight, not only to talk about this, but talk about some of the things that we're talking about now. I have to go over to Harvey, then we'll come back and dialogue a little more. Harvey.
How you doing? I'm Harvey Buchanan. I'm a native of Muncie, Indiana,
Okay.
but raised in Peoria, Illinois, which is the home of Richard Pryor, for those that are familiar with Peoria. My background is I am a young man of, most of my family members are above me were ministers, pastors, so I have a deep spiritual background. Military background. I was Marines for 10 years. Did a number of jobs in the Marines, as I explained to Mr. Crenshaw. I was a bailiff at one time for the legal system. Also was an infantryman just for a short time. But my background is mainly personnel, finance, and administration thereon. I spent some time on my East Coast Marine, as they call them. I spent most of my time at Camp Lejeune. Also served as a Marine security force aboard the U.S. Theodore Roosevelt, which is an aircraft carrier out of Norfolk. Actually had the honor of protecting Senator Kennedy at one time as he came aboard our ship during our commissioning. From that point on, had a short career in high school playing basketball. I come from a basketball family. And also a football family. I am a direct descendant of Buck Buchanan, who played for the Kansas City Chiefs, who was the first black drafted in the AFL in 1960 out of Gremlin.
That's right.
Also in the military careers where I met my wife. Began at an early age, had a call into my life to do ministry because of my family background. And that's how we kind of got connected here with the Brian Buchanan Productions. Just kind of doing what God has purposed in our hearts, and that is to help people through the drama ministry, because the truth of the matter is not everybody's going to come and visit your church because there are own issues with churches over the years, but this is a way to reach people in the theater. And we're just honored to be here on your show today. We're also honored that we've been called to do this type of work because everybody has a piece to the puzzle. Everyone's a part of a branch of a tree, and this is our part of the branch to the certain tree.
Let me ask either one of you all, you don't know the name of the ship and what type of ship it is. I know it's a special type of ship that goes all over the world, but it's the ship that recently they named it after our great civil rights leader, America Evans.
Mm-hmm.
Are you all familiar with that particular ship and type of ship it is?
It's like the USS Comfort, but normally with their those are normally what they call the LPHs, which they serve in a military medical
Yes.
mission, just like the USS Comfort did some time ago during the Gulf War. And it's a great honor that they named that after him, and it's definitely duly so, as I'm looking for them to name the aircraft carrier of our current president. And just as they've done, all the previous presidents all had an aircraft carrier named after them. And I'm looking for the USS Obama, Barack Obama, to be coming into play here soon.
Sounds mighty good to me.
I just wanted, I was listening to Lieutenant Colonel here talk about the prep schools in West Point. We've been talking, we don't want to give Jack Kinkins his due. There is a member in my church who I believe Jack has recommended the young man for the Naval Academy. I believe he's going to get in. So I don't want people to think that, we're beating up on Jack, because he has, most of the congressmen, all of them, and senators get opportunities to nominate people for the military academies. And I believe that, as I've heard it, that Jack has put in quite a bit for a young man, and from my church that is going to be going to the Naval Academy. So I want to make sure he knows about that, we get about that. The thing that I found quite interesting is that you were talking about the number of people in the military, but also, since you're in the legal area, let's talk a little bit about this issue about sexual discrimination and whether or not it needs to go through the hierarchy of the judicial system. Give us a little bit of input on where do you think that case stands. I know that a lot of people want it outside of the military justice system because of the culture of the military. Where do you kind of see that going?
Well, as I mentioned, my last job was in discrimination consultation, but sexual assault prevention and sexual harassment was a part of that job as well. So with deploying and also serving a few years on Fort Stewart, that was my direct job, was to process cases. So that's one of those lines of, it's the type of work it's not happy work. When I call the general, he knows every time I call, it's either a discrimination case, a sexual harassment case, or a sexual assault. So those phone calls are never easy. Yes, I have heard and read about this whole notion of taking the process of how we process those cases, and put it in a neutral party's hands. That might not be a bad idea. That's not to say that the way that we're doing it now is not efficient. But what I will say is this: from every layer of command, commanders, senior enlisted advisors need to understand that they got to work very closely with what is sexual harassment, what is sexual assault. One is a crime, one is under Title VII. So they have to understand what it is so that we don't make mistakes of blaming victims, where we don't shift the blame, where we ask a lot of natural questions based on your own either lack of information, maybe even prejudices or whatever it is. So it is best that the experts handle those cases. And oftentimes in the military, when something comes down to a commander level, I can speak commander talk because I've been a commander. So whether you're a male commander or a female commander or whatever your race is, that doesn't matter. What matters is you have to understand the law that supports and that protects a victim. You also have to understand the human side of it. In other words, a lot of things that you see when an assault occurs or when harassment occurs, it's a natural thing for people to ask questions of blaming, and you automatically just take the case somewhere where it shouldn't be taken. So keeping the experts there, I think, is a good thing. Keeping everybody focused, keeping people following the law, keeping the victim protected. There's so many layers and nuances to cases, whether it be harassment, and we believe that harassment is a precursor. It's a thing that happens before an assault. So, but you got to have your experts there, and that's why this whole idea of maybe having taking it out of the hands of the commanders and then putting it in the hands of an outside party, it could be a good thing. But you definitely, the commanders have, I understand they want to be involved in that process. They want to make sure that the person or more than one, if it's more than one, the people responsible are held accountable. At the end of the day, they want the right thing done. And they're very particular about their control and authority taken from them. So I think that they have to be in the loop. They have to be well informed. They have to be empowered to know that they're involved in it. But at the same time, making sure that the experts are handling the case, and not those who are not in the culture, who've not received the training and the certification, and who've been in the thick of things. Those things have to be done properly. Even in your courtrooms, you see things that are done improperly. You hear it every day.
Well, let me ask a question. So this is where I am, and it applies to our churches too. I think that what we missed, having been in the military system, is that the training has not been there. If it's been there, it has not been of a high enough in the pecking order for people to take some things seriously. I think that we have a lot of people who are following their mission, but I'm not sure that, just like in corporate America, just like in a lot of our churches, a lot of people mingle, but they have not received the kind of training that would let them pick out. For instance, one of the things that you can always tell, I can always say some people are going to get in trouble. I can tell when I see some person in a line management position, they're going to get in trouble. You know why? If I see them meet a female, and the first thing they do is to think they're at church and they put their arm around, I said, this person is going to have a problem on his job or her job. Because what you do in a church environment, you cannot do on the job. But I think that's a nuance, but also people need to be trained about just what you say. Lots of times people make accusations, and what was yesterday, you and I were friends about something. Today, because someone saw something that they thought was different, it's all of a sudden. So people, to me, it's a very difficult thing. I don't have an answer. I just know from my past experience, I always used to tell people, if you're in doubt about what the person's reaction is going to be to your actions, then always keep it formal.
Well, I do have a lot to say about training. My hat goes off to the military and to many of our senators who are putting a lot of emphasis on sexual harassment and sexual assault now. We do train. We train hard. But believe it or not, the programs that we have now are only 8+ years old.
That's what I'm getting to.
They're only 8 years. I mean, formal systems that are in place, they're only about 8 years young. So it makes you question, it's 2013, almost 2014, what was going on, beforehand.
Yes.
So I believe that the military is a great model. I'm retired. I don't speak for the military. I speak from my direct experiences. So whoever's listening, I have to make that caveat or disclaimer rather. So, but I will say that the military is they have programs that are in place, and it's a matter. It doesn't matter where the particular training programs are. You got to use them, and so whether it's a program that's trying to prevent against sexual harassment, sexual assault, discrimination, you got to use the programs, and they are there. We push them very, very hard, and so from one leader to another leader, commanders and senior enlisted advisors, they have to continue. They can't look at the program as if, oh, here comes some more training, or they can't put this type of training to the back burner. My experience coming from Iraq is this: the kind of programs that people like your chaplains, your medical folks, your IG inspector generals, your EO, your equal opportunity folks, those kind of people, we deal with people and human issues. You don't want to say human capital, but we deal with human issues. So if you're in a war setting and your mission is to go and attack that bunker, I'm just kind of simplifying it, or to do a war mission, when you don't take care of and lend time to training on the human areas, I don't care what's going on, those human issues will always rise above anything that you're doing, and it will stop the predominant mission at hand if you don't take the time to train. I know that a few months ago, this is not on harassment or on assault, but I know that Paula Dean had some problems with language and different things in the media some months ago. To me, this was a classic example. You mentioned the church, you mentioned the military, you mentioned corporate America. It's very easy for people like me to walk into an organization, especially non-military, and to pick out different things. But I absolutely love what the military has put together. We just have to use it. But these are things that all organizations need. So you don't need it in a crisis mode. You need it in a training and preventable mode. What's acceptable speech? We live in a culture where we're representative of all types of cultures. So what's acceptable? You don't need to go through these things after you've said the wrong thing, done the wrong thing, if it's a matter of training as a regular practice. Now going back to our plays, when I was in the military, we used programs on the training side of the house. We use programs to recognize, to help present educational programs to talk about cultural awareness. So MLK, Black History Month, Hispanic American Month, Asian Pacific, the Holocaust, Women's Appreciation, the suffrage, Native American, all of those different cultures or backgrounds were recognized, and we put programs together, whether they were plays, dances, speeches, whatever it was, in an effort to train so that we can help everyone understand each other, to prevent, racial and fratricide.
When the soul of a woman cries, what size cast you have play? I mean, tell us a little about that. How many people, male, female, etc., etc.?
Well, there are 14 cast members.
14 cast members.
And but we travel with up to 33 people. No more than 33. That's a big group of people to travel
Sure
with. Is. And but the cast is comprised of actors, singers, one dancer, and then we have our logisticians, we have our administrators, all of those people. But 14 cast members, and I don't know the breakdown of women and men, but some sing, some do not, and they are just a representation of our community. You will see yourself when you see these particular characters in the play.
Okay, viewing audience, you were hearing that right here tonight on the Dunham Report. We're going to be off in another few minutes, but still yet I want you to make sure that you get these dates and time right. That's what we're fixing to talk about now, which this is going to take place at the Civic Center. That's the Civic Center. We're moving out of 2013 into 2014. This will take place 3 days. 3 days. That's going to start on January the 17th, 2014. That's on a Friday. And that's at 7 p.m.
Yes.
That's the first one. Am I correct?
Yes.
All right. The second one, that's Saturday, which will be January 18th, 2014. There's 2 shows that day. That's 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. Put it down. If you miss one, you can come to next and tell people about it. The third one is Sunday, January 19th. So you can think in terms of 17th, 18th, 19th. You can think in terms of Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Sunday would be the last day, and that's 1 p.m. and 6 p.m. Am I correct on all of that?
Correct, sir.
Okay. Dramatize and tell them why they should come out to see this play.
They should come see When the Soul of a Woman Cries, because every person who walks through that door will see themselves in this production. You will learn to, when you walk out the door, you will not come back the same. You will learn to love more. You'll love to forgive more. And if you have issues in your family, you will see some of the same issues in this play, and we'll talk about it from a dramatic standpoint, from a laughing standpoint, and you'll just be closer and be able to go back home more complete as a result.
Mr. Crenshaw, back here again with the symposium with the Harris Neck Land Trust and Savannah State.
Yes, do not forget this, people. Harris Neck Symposium will be on Wednesday, February 5th, 2014. The time is 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Where is at the Savannah State University Student Union Building. It's the story of a Gullah community's 200-year journey to freedom. It's free to the whole public and for the students. If you need information, you need to call us at 480-200-1497.
Give them my number too, more West, so they can call me.
Okay, I don't have your number down here.
That is, I thought you, that's 507-9940, 507-9940, area code 912. And again, the Buchanan, we all was tremendous, guests being on the Dunham show tonight. And we definitely going to have you back on real soon. And we're going to be doing some information with you all, some things with you all real soon. I could make an announcement about something that I'm going to be doing, but it's going to be, it's airing tonight and it'll be done took place at that particular time. I'll tell you all more about it, but not the listening audience. Okay, listening audience, you have been viewing and looking at the Dunham Report. And so have a good, well, you just got through with a good holiday, which was Christmas, and we're going to also wish you a Happy New Year's, which will be after, but still yet. So you have been listening to the Dunham Report, where you, the community, come first, keeping a focus on the future. See you next week. Good night.
Oh, beautiful, our heroes proved in liberating strife. Who more than self yeah, country loved, and mercy more than life. I met